Last week on Saving the Gibbons.
In the wild, food can be scarce due to shifting habitat conditions. With effectively unlimited and easily accessed food, an 18% decrease in foraging behavior.
Owner of Mobile Zoo into Metro Jail.
Alarming from an animal welfare perspective.
This type of behavior is known as stereotyping.
In our previous documentary, we covered issues in the white-handed gibbons enclosure. The main concern centered on low foraging levels relative to the wild. To address it, we broke this idea down into 3 categories. 1. Habitat, which focuses on the white-handed gibbons environment. Cognitive, which is about gibbons critically thinking to pass their obstacles. And food, a key motivator to encourage gibbons to forage.
Keeping those topics in mind, we decided to devise a device to help these gibbons in captivity.
We would have our device in multiple places in the enclosure, specifically in places with vegetation. They typically enjoyed staying in areas that were near their section-off zone, so you want to encourage them to explore more of their enclosure. Having multiple of these devices would simulate how white-handed gibbons in the wild have many different sources to forage from, that they aren't limited to the few consistent food sources within their habitat, which currently impose lower foraging desires in them. Not geospatial placement is necessary because of how we are going to disperse food within the enclosure. Having multiple food sources wouldn't necessarily increase their foraging levels, they would rather treat it as another consistent food source for them to lean towards. What we're focusing on here is a mystery. Each day, one of our enrichment devices would be randomly selected to bear a gibbon's dream. The fig. While the enrichment devices would still have other food items, but ones that don't carry. This would help the gibbon to always be seeking, a trait that increases their foraging and helps them approach what they are like in the wild.
This here is the puzzle element for our gibbons. The puzzle is broken into 2 parts, the food module and the puzzle module. The food module holds all the food for the gibbons, while the puzzle module is more unique. Rather than each enrichment device having the same puzzle for the gibbons, each one would have a more unique design. Different designs that our zookeepers can customize on a daily basis for either harder or easier cognitive tasks. The underlying motion that the gibbons will have to perform to retrieve their food is a pulling motion. This would emulate how a gibbon would forage for food in the wild. Using a system of pulleys, this puzzle would challenge the gibbon to pull the handles to allow their food items to roll down so they may retrieve it. And these gibbons are super shy.
During our observation, the gibbons did not interact with the current enrichment devices. Based on the data, we inferred that this was due to the presence of humans. When we recorded our data, we saw, especially in the afternoon sessions, that for nearly 80% of the time, the gibbons placed themselves away from the views of humans. To address this, we developed the gibbon arch. The gibbon arch is a small structure that utilizes plant cover to provide concealment for the gibbons. In the arch is a puzzle device to provide enrichment and encourage foraging behaviors. Arches can be hung or placed on the ground to vary the time spent on each level. Each hanging arch costs $173.19 and each ground arch costs $81.30. The additional expenses for the hanging arches come mainly from the plywood, which costs about $42, and the rope, which costs about $6, which are both high-quality materials that are important for the safety of the gibbons. For the ground units, the most expensive component is the ivy, which will provide visual concealment. The other notable component is the wire trellis, which costs $5.40 per unit with the purchase and division of a large fencing wire sheet. Each puzzle will be made using 3D printing, so the cost of the filament required to print each puzzle is factored into the budget. Since the puzzle has a pulling component, half of a roll of twine, 400 inches, is factored into the budget, which should cover both initial costs and the cost to repair the modules.
Currently, while the gibbons at the Santa Ana Zoo enjoy relative comfort and have a glued enclosure, there is always room for improvement. Our gibbon arches address irregularities in behavior, namely infrequent foraging. While zoos provide important opportunities and invaluable life experience to humans, it's important to ensure that animals in captivity are provided proper opportunities to exercise their body and mind. Welfare is survival, but it is also ensuring animals are stimulated and encouraged by their environment.
And sharks, that's our fish.